Good morning. We are continuing in the book of Exodus, Exodus chapter 2. We started with the young life of Moses yesterday, and so now we are going to continue, likely all the way through his exile. So let us take a look here. Exodus chapter 2, starting in verse 11. Now it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out to his brethren, and he looked at their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, two Hebrew men were fighting, and he said to the one who did the wrong, "Why are you striking your companion?" Then he said, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you did the Egyptian, or as you killed the Egyptian?" So Moses feared and said, "Surely this thing is known." When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses had fled the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Dum, dum, dum. We'll probably keep going forward. But, as you look at the timeline and whatnot, Moses probably came on the scene. Let me see if I can put some pieces together here. So Moses came on the scene, being raised up under Pharaoh's daughter, who later became Pharaoh. Thutmose II, who would have been Pharaoh at the time that Moses was drawn out of the water, or actually, they take that back. Thutmose I would have been Pharaoh at that time. And so Thutmose I was Pharaoh, and Hatshepsut was married to her brother. I think it was a half-brother, but regardless. And so she brings up Moses. When Thutmose I dies, Thutmose II only reigns for 10 years. And so they never have any kids, which, when you're married to your brother, you just might not feel like having any kids. But that's the way it goes. So we see that he comes in, and it tells us in the book of Acts that there became a point where he did not want to be involved. Maybe this is when Hatshepsut died. Maybe it was at the point when his adopted mother, dies, and he could have rose up to be king. He denies it and says, "No, I don't want Egypt. I want to be with my people." And that point, Thutmose III comes in. We don't have the chronology perfect as far as what Moses' choices were and when those things took place. But it's under Thutmose III that it says in verse 15, right, that when Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses. Moses at this point, if we take Josephus's account and whatnot, he would have led armies and conquered the Ethiopians, that under his stepmom of Hatshepsut, he would have been a leader, and he would have done great things and probably have been admired by many of the people. And so even if he denied taking over Pharaoh, and Thutmose III, his stepbrother, ends up getting there, Thutmose, even as Pharaoh, probably feared the people and probably didn't have a reason to get rid of this annoying stepbrother whom he probably really disliked. And so here's kind of like the golden opportunity for him is he sees he killed an Egyptian. That's all I needed. Let's go kill him. And so Moses flees into Midian. Now, Midian is Arabia. Now, it's worth noting, this is like some of the stuff that is really elementary, that sadly over the years, Catherine or whatever and other people have missed. Give me a map I can use here. Nope. Yes, I can use this map, or I can use this map. Ignore the blasphemous drawings, but here is a backwards map. I know it's backwards, of Egypt. So it's backwards because it's on a live stream. Egypt, the Sinai Peninsula, Arabia. Now, it's called the Sinai Peninsula because people used to think Mount Sinai was there. And there's a mountain there called Sinai that was named way later. But you have to understand that Arabia, that's where Midian was. And Moses is going to run into that whole burning bush thing. You've probably heard of it. In the next chapter, God says to return back here with my people. Moses fled over here. He didn't flow here. Red Sea crossing happened there. Maybe right there. I'm an advocate of right there. Maybe I can get some pictures to show you when we get to the sea crossing portion. Definitely had a lot of stuff I showed my church when we were in the book of Exodus. There's some great documentaries, guys. Oh man, there's the real Mount Sinai. There's even a more recent one where the guy goes around with a drone. Did you guys, I'm getting so off track. I get excited. You can go on Google Maps and look up Mount Sinai, the real one, the split rock of Horeb, where Moses splits the rock and splits in half and the water comes out. That's on Google Maps. You can even zoom in and see the rock. And you can see all the people's pictures of the rock. You can go on Google Maps and you can find where the golden calf was. Just saying, it's all right there. It's not hard to find. So he goes into Midian. And I'm just reminding us and explaining. And again, we talked about this in the introduction, is that Thutmose III, historically, he had numerous campaigns up into Canaan. And so likely he assumed that Moses went home. Canaan, which was where the Egyptians, at least as far as the Egyptians were concerned, that's where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were from. And so they assumed he probably went north. And so Thutmose III, if you go to Israel with me, you can check it out. And FYI, there are still spots on this upcoming Israel trip if people want to go. Pamphilio, you've been to Israel with me before. And if you remember Pamphilio, Scythopolis was where you'd walk down. It was that beautiful Roman city. And Bet Shan is the hill where Saul was hung. And some of us hiked up the hill while the majority of the group stayed down low. And I'm always the guy who has to hike up the hill. Well, on the top of that hill is an Egyptian outpost by Thutmose III. And again, if you guys go to Israel, Bet Shan is just south of the Galilee. It's really far north in Israel. And so Thutmose, he really did conquer northern Israel. Now, I maybe I'll just stop here for today for the sake of time and not continue on. We'll get into to Jethro and Zipporah and all these other guys, Gershom, all these dudes. But here's what I will tell you, is that in the book of Acts, chapter 7, which is commentary on this little section, right? Acts 7:23. When he was 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit the brethren and the children of Israel, and seeing one of them suffer wrong, he defended and avenged him who was oppressed, and struck down the Egyptian. For he supposed, listen now, this is the commentary, the best commentary on the Bible is the Bible. He supposed that his brethren would have understood that God would deliver them by his hand, but they did not understand. And the next day he appeared to the two of them as they were fighting, and tried to reconcile them, saying, Men, you are brethren, why do you do wrong to one another? But he who did his neighbor wrong pushed him away, saying, Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? Do you want to kill me as you did the Egyptian yesterday? And then at this saying Moses fled, and became a dweller in the land of Midian, where he had 2 sons. And when 40 years had passed, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in the flame of fire in the bush in Mount Sinai, the wilderness of Mount Sinai. So again, he started off in Mount Sinai in Midian, not Sinai Peninsula. Okay, but notice what it said there. And this is the important part in the application, just the spiritual application for us, is that, does this story not sound a bit familiar? That one would come with the heart and the intent to save his people from bondage and slavery, and yet his people reject him. Who are you to be a ruler and a judge over us? And he would go away for a good long season. And when he comes again the second time, he will deliver his people. You can see how Moses is a type of Christ, at least in this scenario, in this part of his life story. And we read in Zechariah 12, verse 10, that God will one day pour out the spirit of supplication, his Holy Spirit upon his people, upon the house of David. And they will look on me, God says. They will look on me whom they've pierced, and they will mourn for me as one mourns for their only begotten son, right? And so Jesus rejected. He did come. He came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? That's what his intent was to save his people. And the early church, all the way up to Acts 10, really. I mean, Acts 8, the Samaritans get saved, but it's all a Jewish thing. You know, the early church was all Jewish. And that was Jesus' goal, was to get back to his people. But on the whole, they rejected him. On the whole, they rejected him. But he will come again. And the second time, they will receive him. We read in Revelation 11 that at that point, we will see the 2 witnesses killed. At the 3.5-year mark of the tribulation, we will see the Antichrist go into the temple and demand to be worshipped as God. And at that point, it'll be an epiphany, like a light is going on. Bing! And the Jews will realize we've been duped by this guy. And it had been Jesus all along. So, a little bit of history, past and future history, eschatology, studies of the end. So, hope that blesses you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow, bright and early. It's Tuesday, which means there's a Spanish Bible study tonight. If you know any Spanish speakers who you think would benefit from being plugged into the Word of God, speaking in Spanish, tonight, 6:30 at Revival Church, send them out. Hey, youth are at my place. They all know the way to get there. Expect to see them all. Send Ayana, send Juan, and everyone else. You guys take care, and I'll see you around. Here comes the button. About to push it. Turning you guys off now. It's time to go. If you're still here, you should go pray or something. Don't just stare at me. It's getting awkward. I can't believe you're still here. Seriously. Get a life.